Captain Jinwoo Park stood in the center of the massive chamber and felt the weight of 800 alien eyes upon him. The Galactic Council chambers stretched so far in every direction that he could barely see the walls through the haze of different atmospheres that each species needed to breathe. Some delegates floated in tanks of liquid, while others perched on crystalline formations that grew from the floor. The air itself shimmered with translation fields that turned every alien language into words he could understand. Dr. Minji Kim stood beside him, with her hands clasped behind her back. Her face showed nothing, but Jinwoo knew she was recording everything, with the devices hidden in her diplomatic clothes. As Earth's chief scientist on alien life, she had spent 15 years studying these creatures, and now they were all staring at her species like humans were some kind of disease. Sunho Lee positioned himself near the exit as always. The security chief never relaxed even in places that were supposed to be safe. His eyes moved constantly across the chamber, looking for threats that might come from any of the hundreds of different alien forms surrounding them. Some of these beings could kill a human just by thinking the wrong thoughts, and Lee knew it. Chancellor Velroth rose from his seat at the center of the chamber. The crystalline being caught the light from a dozen different suns that streamed through the station's windows and through rainbow patterns across the walls. When he spoke, his voice rang like wind chimes in a storm. Representatives of the species known as humans, Velroth said, and his words echoed through translation devices in 800 different languages. You stand before the Galactic Council to hear the judgment that has been passed upon your kind. Jinwoo had known this moment would come. Earth's diplomats had been fighting for months to prevent it, but the writing had been on the wall ever since. The incident at Proxima Station. Humans had responded to a Zephyrian attack with tactics that the galaxy considered too aggressive. The fact that those tactics had saved 3 million alien lives didn't seem to matter to anyone. The charges against humanity are numerous, Velroth continued. Aggressive territorial expansion beyond the boundaries established by this council, exploitation of resources in systems that were meant to remain pristine, development of weapons, technology that exceeds safety limits, refusal to share certain technological advances with member species, and most seriously, the demonstration of unpredictable behavior patterns that threaten the stability of our civilization. A murmur ran through the chamber as delegates from different species added their own complaints. Jinwoo heard the word chaotic repeated in dozens of languages. The ethereals, who claimed to be the oldest species in the galaxy, seemed particularly upset about human unpredictability. They had spent millions of years perfecting their meditation practices, and apparently humans made it hard for them to achieve inner peace. Dr. Kim leaned slightly toward Jinwoo and whispered without moving her lips. The Andrians are broadcasting their vote tallies. It's not good. The Andrian Collective had been counting votes for weeks. Their crystalline minds could process political calculations faster than any computer, and they rarely got the numbers wrong. If Kim was saying it wasn't good, then humanity was about to face something much worse than just a warning. Chancellor Velroth raised one of his crystal arms, and the chamber fell silent. The Galactic Council has deliberated on these charges for 37 standard days. We have heard testimony from 43 member species. We have reviewed evidence spanning the entirety of humanity's membership in this body. The vote has been cast and counted. Jinwoo felt his heart beating faster but kept his face calm. Behind him, he could sense Sunho Lee shifting his weight slightly. The security chief was getting ready for whatever was about to happen. 823 member species have voted in favor of the proposed resolution. 24 species have chosen to abstain from voting. 0 species have voted in opposition. Velroth's voice grew louder with each word. By the authority vested in this council by the Galactic Charter, the species known as humans is hereby expelled from galactic civilization. The chamber erupted in sounds that human ears were never meant to hear. Some species cheered with calls that sounded like breaking glass. Others made rumbling noises that shook the floor. A few released chemical signals that made the air taste like metal and flowers at the same time. Through it all, Jinwoo stood perfectly still. You have 1 standard galactic year to remove all human presence from council space. Velroth continued when the noise died down. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. All diplomatic relations are severed. All access to council facilities, including jump gates and communication networks, will be revoked. After the deadline expires, any human vessels found in Council space will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Dr. Kim's recorder was getting all of this, but Jinwoo wanted to make sure the Council understood exactly what they were doing. He stepped forward, and his voice carried clearly through the translation systems. "Chancellor Velroth, I request permission to address the Council." The crystalline being's form flickered with what might have been surprise. "The condemned species wishes to speak." Wedu Velroth gestured with one crystal arm. "You may speak, but know that the vote has been cast and cannot be changed." Jinwoo looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces. Some showed expressions he could recognize like anger or fear. Others were completely unreadable to human senses. All of them had just voted to throw his entire species out of the only home humanity had ever known, beyond Earth. 847 species just voted on the fate of humanity, Jinwoo said. 823 of you decided we're too dangerous to live among you. You fear our unpredictability. You worry about our weapons. You think we take too many risks and expand too quickly. He paused and looked directly at the Zephyrian delegation. Their leader had been one of the loudest voices calling for human expulsion ever since humans had destroyed a Zephyrian battle fleet to save those civilians at Proxima Station. "You want to know what makes humans unpredictable?" Jinwoo continued. "It's that we don't abandon people. When the Cortani plague was killing millions, we didn't hold committee meetings for 6 months. We sent our doctors immediately, even though the disease could have spread to Earth. When the ethereal meditation ships were lost in dark space, we didn't calculate the odds of success. We went looking for them anyway, and brought them home." Cha. Ethereal delegation made soft chiming sounds that their translators turned into words of objection, but Jinwoo kept talking. "You call us aggressive because we fight back when someone attacks innocent people. You say we're greedy because we terraform worlds you were afraid to touch. You think we're dangerous because we ask questions you don't want to answer." His voice grew harder. "You fear what you don't understand. You've made your choice. We'll make ours." Jinwoo turned to leave, but then stopped and looked back at Chancellor Velroth. "One more thing. You should know that some of your member species disagree with this decision. 24 species abstained from your vote. That tells me 24 species understand that diversity makes civilization stronger, not weaker. Remember that when you're sitting in your perfect, unchanging galaxy, wondering why nothing new ever happens anymore." Dr. Kim and Sunho Lee fell into step beside him as they walked toward the exit. The chamber behind them buzzed with alien conversations, but none of the three humans looked back. They had more important things to do than listen to 800 species congratulate themselves on removing the chaos from their ordered universe. The shuttle bay was a 20-minute walk through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Most of them stared at the human delegation with mixtures of curiosity and hostility. A few nodded respectfully. Jinwoo noticed that most of the respectful ones belonged to species that had abstained from the vote. Their ship, New Soul, waited in Docking Bay 47. The sleek vessel looked tiny compared to some of the massive alien ships around it, but Jinwoo had never been prouder to see Earth's flag painted on its hull. In a few hours, they would be heading home to deliver news that would change everything. Doctor. Kim activated a small device hidden in her sleeve as they boarded the ship. The quantum communicator sent a coded burst transmission toward Earth, faster than any galactic communication system could detect or intercept. The message was only 7 words long, but those 7 words would set in motion the largest operation in human history. Project Exodus Authorization 77 Alpha. As New Soul undocked from Nexus Prime Station and turned toward Earth, Jinwoo looked out at the massive structure that had been the center of galactic civilization for over 10,000 years. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species moved between the station's docking arms like insects around a hive. He wondered if any of those species understood what they had just done. Humanity had been part of galactic civilization for only 60 years. But in that time, they had changed everything they touched. Human medicine had cured diseases that had plagued some species for millennia. Human engineering had opened up star systems that were thought to be uninhabitable. Human diplomacy had prevented at least 6 wars that Jinwoo knew about. Now all of that was ending. Admiral Daeho Shin stood in the war room of Luna Base and watched humanity prepare to disappear. The holographic displays that surrounded him showed mining operations across the solar system working at impossible speeds. Asteroid belts that had taken millions of years to form were being stripped away in months. The rings of Saturn glowed with the heat from fusion torches as automated harvesters pulled ice and minerals from chunks of rock that had been floating there since the birth of the solar system. President Yuna Choi had activated the Exodus Protocol, 36 hours after receiving Captain Park's message from Nexus Prime. The protocol had been developed in secret over 20 years by a team that most of Earth's government didn't even know existed. It was humanity's answer to a question that diplomats preferred not to ask. What happens if the galaxy decides it doesn't want us anymore? Dr. Wanbin Jiang appeared on one of the communication screens with rock dust coating his environmental suit. Behind him, a mining platform the size of a city was tearing apart an asteroid that had been 3 kilometers wide when the day started. The Terra Engineering Corps had been working non-stop since the protocol began, and Jiang looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Admiral, the harvest phase is ahead of schedule," Jiang reported. "We've extracted more raw materials in the last 6 months than humanity used in the previous century. The automated systems are performing beyond all projections." Shin nodded and switched to another screen where Commander Hana Song was overseeing construction at the Titan shipyards. Behind her stretched a line of vessels that looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. These weren't traditional colony ships designed to carry people from one world to another. They were mobile habitats built to keep entire populations alive, indefinitely, in the emptiness between stars. Status report, Commander. Song's image flickered as another ship launched from the yards behind her. Arc 7 just completed final testing. That brings us to 43 operational vessels with 12 more launching every week. Each Arc can support 50,000 people indefinitely with full manufacturing capability and closed-loop life support. We're not just evacuating, Admiral, we're taking civilization with us. The Arc ships were marvels of engineering that pushed human technology to its absolute limits. Each vessel was essentially a hollow asteroid fitted with fusion reactors and artificial gravity systems. Inside, they contained everything needed to support human life, including farms and factories and schools and hospitals. Most importantly, they contained something the galaxy had never seen before. Complete manufacturing systems that could build anything from computer chips to new Arc ships using only raw materials and energy. Dr. Taemin Cho joined the conversation from his laboratory in orbit around Mars. The AI researcher had been working on what he called the Memory Project, and his discovery would change everything about how humans survived in exile. "Admiral, I'm ready to demonstrate the consciousness transfer system," Cho said. "We've successfully created digital copies of human knowledge and experience that can be stored and transmitted across unlimited distances. Every Arc will carry not just living people, but the accumulated wisdom of our entire species." Shin watched as Cho activated his demonstration. The hologram showed streams of data that represented human thoughts and memories flowing into quantum storage devices. Master craftsmen who had spent decades perfecting their skills could now share that knowledge instantly with anyone anywhere in the fleet. Scientists could back up their research and continue their work even if their original bodies were destroyed. Artists and musicians and writers could preserve their creativity for future generations. "How many people can the system handle?" Shin asked. "All of them," Cho replied. "Every human who volunteers for the process will have their consciousness digitized and stored. If someone dies, their memories and personality can be downloaded into a cloned body. We're not just preserving humanity, Admiral, we're making our species immortal." The implications were staggering. Humanity would leave the galaxy carrying not just their physical population, but a complete backup of their entire civilization. Even if every Arc ship was destroyed, the human spirit would survive in quantum storage, waiting for a chance to be reborn. Engineer Soo-Young Nam appeared on the final screen with news that would shock even the Galactic Council. The young woman had spent 5 years reverse engineering alien technology that Earth had acquired through trade, and her breakthrough would ensure that humanity's exile became something much more significant. "Admiral, the FTL drives are ready for installation," Nam reported. "We've successfully adapted ethereal phase shift technology to work with human engineering principles. Our ships won't need the galactic jump gate network. We can travel anywhere in the galaxy without anyone knowing where we've gone." Shin felt a cold smile cross his face. The galaxy thought they were banishing humanity to some distant corner of space, where they would struggle to survive on primitive worlds. Instead, humans would have faster-than-light travel that was completely independent of galactic infrastructure. They wouldn't just leave, they would vanish without a trace. "What's the range and speed?" Shin asked. "Unlimited range as far as we can." "Determine," Nam replied. "Speed depends on the size of the ship, but even our largest arcs can cross the galaxy in less than a year. The aliens spent millions of years developing jump gate networks because they never thought to combine phase shift technology with quantum field manipulation. Humans figured it out in 5 years. The war room filled with data streams showing the progress of humanity's greatest undertaking. Across the solar system, millions of people were boarding the arc ships that would carry them into exile. But this wasn't a desperate retreat by a defeated species. It was an organized withdrawal by a civilization that had just discovered how much they could accomplish when they stopped trying to fit in with everyone else. President Choi appeared on the main screen looking tired but determined. Behind her, the lights of Earth showed cities working around the clock to complete the evacuation. 2.5 billion humans would leave their homeworld in the next 6 months. The remaining population would stay behind to ensure that Earth revealed none of its secrets to whatever species claimed it next. "Admiral, how long until the fleet is ready to depart?" Choi asked. "Final preparations will be complete in 18 days, Shin replied. "We'll be gone 6 months ahead of the galactic deadline." "Good. The sooner we leave, the sooner we can begin building something better than what we're leaving behind." Shin understood what she meant. Humanity had spent 60 years trying to be good, members of galactic civilization. They had followed rules created by species that were afraid of change. They had limited their expansion to areas the Council approved. They had shared their technology freely, while other species hoarded their discoveries. They had intervened in conflicts to save lives even when it made them enemies. All of that was ending. Humanity was about to become something the galaxy had never encountered. A truly free species with no restrictions on their growth or development. They would explore regions of space that the Council considered too dangerous. They would develop technologies that other species thought were too risky. They would expand as fast and as far as they wanted without asking anyone's permission. Dr. Zhang reappeared on his screen with an update from the mining operations. "Admiral, we've completed resource extraction from the asteroid belt. The automated systems are now working on the moons of Jupiter. At current rates, we'll have enough raw materials to build 1,000 more arc ships if we need them." The scale of the harvest operation was almost impossible to comprehend. Humanity was essentially disassembling their solar system and taking it with them. Every useful asteroid had been reduced to component atoms. The moons of the outer planets were being carved apart and fed into matter converters. Even the comets in the outer system were being captured and processed for their water and organic compounds. Commander Song's shipyards had become the largest industrial operation in human history. The construction platforms around Titan were launching new arc ships every few days while simultaneously building the automated systems that would continue production during the journey. Each arc ship that left the yards was immediately joined by a swarm of smaller vessels, mining ships, and construction platforms and defensive systems that would protect the fleet during their exodus. "Admiral, I have a question about our destination," Song said. "Where exactly are we going?" Shin smiled and activated a star chart that showed the galaxy with all known Council territories marked in red. Vast regions of space remained unexplored, because the galactic species preferred to stay in areas they understood. The Council had spent thousands of years mapping safe routes between known systems, while ignoring the dangerous regions that might contain unknown threats. "We're going everywhere they're afraid to look," Shin replied. "Dark matter regions that interfere with their sensors. Unstable systems they consider too risky for colonization. Areas of space where their technology doesn't work properly. Humanity thrives in chaos, Commander. It's time we found some real chaos to thrive in." The Exodus plan called for the fleet to scatter in multiple directions once they left the solar system. Captain Kyung-Soo An watched the stars bend and twist around his ship as the Busan Rising dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 2 years had passed since the human fleet left Earth, and they were now further from home than any human had ever traveled. The Ark ship's sensors immediately began scanning the strange region of space they had just entered, while On studied the readings with growing excitement. "Captain, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies," reported Navigator Hyemen Park from her station. "The space around us is filled with some kind of exotic matter that's bending light and gravity in ways our computers can't properly calculate." On moved to the science station, where Dr. Yunji Park was analyzing the sensor data. The astrophysicist had been studying these readings for weeks as the Pathfinder fleet approached this region, and her theories were about to be tested. Behind them, the main viewing screen showed stars that seemed to shimmer and dance, as if the light from them was being filtered through water. "Doctor, what exactly are we looking at?" On asked. Dr. Park highlighted sections of the sensor display with her fingers. "It's a dark matter reef, Captain. A stable formation of exotic matter that creates a gravitational lens effect. From outside, this region's space appears normal, but anyone trying to look inside would see nothing but empty void." The implications hit On immediately. They had discovered a natural hiding place that could conceal an entire civilization from the rest of the galaxy. Any species trying to scan this region from outside would detect nothing but empty space, while inside the reef normal physics applied and planets could support life. "How large is the affected area?" On asked. "At least 50 light-years in diameter," Dr. Park replied. "Possibly larger. The exotic matter formations extend beyond our sensor range in all directions. This isn't just a hiding place, Captain, it's an entire hidden galaxy." Science Officer Minho Lee joined them at the sensor station, with readings from the deep space probes. "Captain, we're detecting multiple star systems within the reef. At least 30 systems show planets in habitable zones, and several of those planets are reading positive for liquid water and oxygen atmospheres." On felt his heart racing as he realized what they had discovered. The human fleet had been searching for 2 years for a place to establish their new civilization. They needed somewhere the Galactic Council would never find them, and this dark matter reef was perfect. Better than perfect, actually, because it contained enough habitable worlds to support humanity's expansion for thousands of years. Communications patched me through to Admiral Kim. "Admiral Seojun." Kim appeared on the main screen within minutes. Behind him, the command center of the flagship New Horizon buzzed with activity as the Admiral coordinated the movements of over 400 Ark ships spread across a dozen star systems. Kim had aged visibly during the 2 years of exile, but his eyes still burned with the determination that had made him humanity's greatest military leader. "Captain, on your report." "Admiral, we've found it. A natural phenomenon that completely hides this region from outside observation. Multiple habitable worlds with no signs of galactic civilization. This could be our new home." Kim leaned forward in his command chair. "How soon can you provide detailed survey data?" "Give me 72 hours, Admiral. We'll map every system and catalog every planet. If the other surveys confirm what we're seeing here, this reef could support 1 trillion humans." The next 3 days passed in a blur of constant activity as survey teams from multiple Ark ships spread throughout the reef to catalog its resources. What they found exceeded even their most optimistic projections. The reef contained 47 star systems with over 200 planets and moons that could support human life. Some worlds were perfect Earth-like planets with existing biospheres. Others were barren rocks that could be terraformed using human technology. Dr. Ji-Young Seo led the xenobiology teams that were studying the native life they discovered on several worlds. The marine biologist had spent her career studying alien ecosystems, but what she found in the reef was unlike anything in the galactic databases. These worlds had evolved in complete isolation and contained life forms that had never been influenced by galactic civilization. "Captain, these ecosystems are incredible," SEO reported from the surface of a world they had designated Haven Prime. "The native species here have evolved without any outside interference. We're seeing evolutionary patterns that the galaxy thought were impossible." On studied the biological data streaming up from the survey teams. Haven Prime contained forests of crystal trees that converted starlight directly into nutrients. Ocean, creatures that communicated through electromagnetic pulses spanning continents. Atmospheric organisms that formed vast collective intelligences in the planet's upper atmosphere. The world was a living laboratory that could teach humanity things about biology that the galaxy had never imagined. Dr. Seo, what's your recommendation? For colonization. We can establish settlements without disrupting the native ecosystems, Seo replied. In fact, human presence might actually benefit some of these species. Our biotechnology could help them expand into environmental niches they've never been able to exploit. The terraforming teams led by Dr. Minho Lee were making even more remarkable discoveries on the barren worlds within the reef. Using advanced biotechnology developed during the Exodus, they weren't just making planets habitable for humans. They were creating entirely new types of biospheres that combined Earth species with local life forms. Captain, we're not just terraforming these worlds, Lee reported from the surface of a planet they called New Jeju. We're creating hybrid ecosystems that are more stable and productive than anything that evolved naturally. These worlds will be able to support larger populations with less environmental impact than Earth ever could. Lee's teams were using genetic engineering techniques that the Galactic Council considered too dangerous to attempt. They were combining DNA from Earth organisms with genetic material from native species to create life forms that had never existed before. The results were spectacular. Crops that could grow in almost any environment, plants that could process toxic materials into useful chemicals, and animals that could thrive in conditions that would kill most galactic species. Admiral Kim made the decision to begin colonization immediately. The first settlements were established on Haven Prime and New Jeju, while construction teams began building orbital habitats around the other worlds. Within months, the reef was buzzing with human activity as millions of people left the Ark ships to begin new lives on worlds that the galaxy didn't know existed. But the most important discovery came from Intelligence Chief Dong-Yun Yu, who had been analyzing the structure of the reef itself. The young officer had backgrounds in both physics and archaeology, and his findings would change everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. Admiral, this reef isn't natural, Yu reported during a briefing aboard New Horizon. The exotic matter formations show clear signs of artificial construction. Someone built this place millions of years ago. Kim studied the data that Yu had compiled. Deep scans of the reef's structure revealed patterns that were too organized to be natural. The exotic matter had been carefully arranged to create specific gravitational effects. Hidden throughout the reef were structures that could only be artificial constructions left behind by an ancient civilization. Who built it, Chief Unknown Admiral? But whoever they were, they had technology that makes current galactic science look primitive. We're finding deposits of materials that shouldn't exist according to galactic physics, energy sources that have been running continuously for millions of years, and something else. You activated a holographic display that showed the location of artificial structures throughout the reef. There were hundreds of them scattered across dozens of worlds. Most were buried deep underground or hidden in asteroid belts, but all of them were still active after eons of abandonment. These structures appear to be some kind of repository system. They're storing vast amounts of information and technology. If we can figure out how to access them, we might learn things that no species in the galaxy has ever discovered. The implications were staggering. Humanity had found not just a new home, but a treasure trove of ancient knowledge that could advance their civilization by millions of years. The beings who had built the reef had apparently reached a level of technological development that current galactic species couldn't even comprehend. Xenobiologist Seo made the first breakthrough in accessing the ancient technology. While studying crystal formations on Haven Prime, she discovered that the crystals responded to human bioelectric fields in ways they didn't respond to other forms of energy. When humans touched certain crystal structures, information began flowing into their minds through some form of direct neural interface. The builders designed these systems to work with biological consciousness, SEO explained to the research teams. They weren't just storing data, they were preserving knowledge in a form that could be directly downloaded into organic brains. Humans seemed to be biologically compatible with their interface systems. The first downloads revealed construction techniques that could build materials stronger than anything in the galaxy. Energy systems that could tap directly into the quantum foam underlying reality. Chancellor Velroth stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council and felt cracks spreading through his crystalline form. 5 years had passed since humanity's expulsion, and the galaxy was falling apart. The Andrian collectives, trade networks were collapsing without human innovation to drive new technologies. Agricultural worlds that had relied on human biotechnology were experiencing crop failures. Even the ancient ethereals admitted their meditation practices had become strangely hollow without human unpredictability to contemplate. Dr. Bowman Kang monitored the council session from her hidden command center on New Jeju and smiled. The marine biologist had been selected to lead humanity's intelligence operations because her background in studying alien ecosystems gave her unique insights into how galactic civilization actually functioned. What she had discovered was that humanity had been far more important to galactic stability than anyone realized. "The statistical models are clear," Velroth announced to the assembled delegates. "Galactic economic output has declined by 37% since the human expulsion. Technological innovation has dropped to levels not seen in over 2,000 years. Military conflicts between member species have increased by 400%. The council chamber buzzed with alien conversations as species that had voted for humanity's banishment tried to understand how removing one chaotic element could destabilize their entire civilization. The Cortani delegation was particularly agitated because their agricultural systems were failing without human-developed crops that could adapt to changing environmental conditions. Kang activated one of her stealth communication systems and contacted Captain Isel Yoon, who was currently operating near the Zephyrian home system aboard the reconnaissance vessel Silent Thunder. The ship was built using ancient builder technology and was completely invisible to all known galactic sensors while being fast enough to travel anywhere in the galaxy within hours. "Captain, what's the situation in Zephyrian space?" Yoon's image appeared on Kang's screen with the bridge of her ship visible behind her. "Dr. Kang, the Zephyrians are mobilizing their entire battle fleet. Intelligence suggests they're planning to attack Cortani agricultural worlds within the next month. Without human trade networks to distribute food resources, both species are becoming desperate." This was exactly what Kang had predicted would happen. Humanity had served as neutral mediators in countless disputes between galactic species while their trade networks ensured fair distribution of resources across known space. Without human intervention, old rivalries were resurging, and species were returning to the territorial behaviors that had dominated the galaxy before the formation of the Council. "Proceed with Operation Gentle Hand," Kang instructed. "Make sure both fleets receive anonymous gifts that might encourage them to reconsider their aggressive plans." Yoon smiled and signed off to begin her mission. Over the next few days, mysterious benefactors would provide both the Zephyrians and Cortani with technological solutions to their resource problems. Advanced agricultural systems would appear on Cortani worlds, while Zephyrian industrial facilities would receive upgrades that improved their efficiency. Neither species would be able to identify the source of these gifts, but both would find their urgent needs suddenly met. This was part of Kang's broader strategy to demonstrate humanity's continued relevance to galactic civilization. Anonymous gifts of technology were appearing on struggling worlds throughout Council space. Trade routes that had been disrupted by conflict were receiving unexpected protection from unknown guardians. Species that were struggling with resource shortages found mysterious shipments of exactly what they needed waiting at their spaceports. Financial analyst Hyemin Ju appeared on another screen with economic data from across the galaxy. The young woman had been monitoring galactic markets since humanity's expulsion, and her analysis painted a disturbing picture of civilizational decline. "Dr. Kang, the galactic economy is approaching complete collapse," Ju reported. Human consumer markets represented 30% of all interspecies trade. Without human demand for alien goods, entire industrial sectors are shutting down. The Boyd's Andrion Collective's crystal farms are operating at only 20% capacity because humans were their primary customers. Kang studied the economic projections that Ju had compiled. Species that had voted for humanity's expulsion were discovering that humans had been the economic engine that drove galactic prosperity. Human colonies had been the largest consumers of alien luxury goods, while human industrial worlds had produced technologies that other species couldn't manufacture themselves. "What about the species that abstained from the vote?" Kang asked. "They're forming unofficial trade partnerships with each other," Ju replied. 24 species are creating what they call the Neutral Commerce Alliance. They're trying to maintain economic cooperation without human participation, but they lack the industrial capacity to replace what humanity provided. This development was particularly interesting to Kang because it suggested that not all galactic species supported humanity's continued exile. Ambassador Jiho Lim had been making covert contact with several of these species, and his reports indicated growing resistance to the Council's decision. Dr. Kang Wai have an update from the ethereal homeworld, reported Communications Officer Wu Jin Han from his monitoring station. The ethereals have withdrawn completely from galactic politics. They're claiming that the removal of human chaos has made the universe spiritually sterile, and they can no longer achieve proper meditation states. The ethereals were the oldest known species in the galaxy, and their withdrawal from council activities was causing panic among younger civilizations who had relied on ethereal wisdom for guidance. Without the ancient beings to provide philosophical leadership, several species were beginning to question the fundamental principles that had governed galactic civilization for millennia. Kang activated a secure channel to contact her most important operative. Dr. Nari Chung was leading humanity's greatest secret project from a hidden research facility in the Deep Reef. The biochemist had been working on what they called the Synthesis Initiative, using ancient builder technology to develop solutions to problems that had plagued galactic civilization for thousands of years. Dr. Chung, what's the status of the medical protocols? Chung appeared on screen surrounded by laboratory equipment that incorporated both human innovation and builder science. Behind her, holographic displays showed the molecular structure of diseases that had killed billions of galactic citizens over the centuries. We've achieved complete success, Chung reported. The synthesis of human medical knowledge with builder biotechnology has produced cures for every major disease affecting galactic species. The Cortani plague that killed 300 million beings last century could now be eliminated in days. The Zephyrian genetic degradation syndrome could be reversed entirely. Even the ethereal consciousness fragmentation disorder has a treatment. The implications were staggering. Humanity now possessed medical technology that could heal ailments that galactic civilization had considered incurable. But more importantly, they had developed techniques for peaceful first contact with primitive species that could prevent the cultural contamination that had destroyed dozens of younger civilizations. Dr. Chung, what about the environmental restoration protocols? Complete success there as well, Chung replied. We can reverse ecological damage that galactic species thought was permanent. Dead worlds can be restored to full biological productivity within months instead of centuries. We've even developed techniques for repairing the damage caused by failed terraforming projects. Kang felt a mixture of pride and sadness as she reviewed the scope of humanity's achievements. In 5 years of exile, they had solved problems that had challenged galactic civilization for millennia. They possessed technology that could eliminate scarcity, create unlimited clean energy, and restore damaged ecosystems. Yet the galaxy that could benefit from these advances had voted to expel humanity because they feared human unpredictability. Commander Youngmin Park contacted her from his monitoring post near the galactic core with intelligence that would change everything. The military analyst had been tracking communications between various species, fleets, and his latest intercepts revealed that the galaxy's problems were about to become much worse. Dr. Kang, I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout Council. Space, Park reported. The Zephyrians and Cortani aren't the only species preparing for war. At least 12 different conflicts are developing simultaneously. Without human diplomatic intervention, these disputes are escalating beyond any hope of peaceful resolution. The holographic display that Park transmitted showed the positions of military fleets across known space. Ancient territorial disputes that had been settled by human mediation were flaring up again. Resource conflicts that human trade networks had prevented were driving species toward desperate military action. The galaxy was sliding toward its first large-scale interspecies war in over 1,000 years. How long before fighting breaks out? Kang asked. Days, maybe weeks, Park replied. The ethereal withdrawal has eliminated the Council's moral authority. Species are no longer willing to accept arbitration from beings they consider spiritually compromised. President Jae-hyun Roh stood before the Council of Captains in the Great Assembly Hall of New Geneva and felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down on him. 7 years had passed since the galactic banishment and the hidden civilization. They had built in the dark matter reef now surpassed anything in known space. The question facing the Council was simple but profound. Should humanity reveal themselves to save a galaxy that had rejected them? The assembly hall was filled with representatives from every human settlement in the reef. Admiral Che-Young-Cha sat with the military commanders who had overseen humanity's transformation into a space-faring civilization that could appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Dr. Heron Ko led the diplomatic corps that had spent years preparing for this moment. Technology demonstrator Gimin So represented the scientists who had unlocked the secrets of ancient builder technology. "The galaxy is dying," Ro announced to the assembled captains. "Without human innovation and mediation, galactic civilization is collapsing into chaos. Wars are breaking out across council space. Economic systems that operated for thousands of years are failing. Species that have coexisted peacefully for millennia are preparing to destroy each other." Intelligence reports from across the galaxy painted a grim picture. War Marshal Thex Carr had replaced Chancellor Velroth and was leading the Galactic Council toward unprecedented militarization. The Zephyrian commander blamed humanity's absence for the galaxy's problems and was demanding the right to hunt down human refugees and eliminate them entirely. "We have the power to stop this destruction," Ro continued. "Our technology can solve every problem the galaxy faces. Our medicine can cure diseases they consider incurable. Our environmental systems can restore worlds they believe are permanently damaged. The question is whether they deserve our help." The debate that followed was intense and emotional. Many captains argued that humanity owed nothing to species that had voted for their expulsion. They had built a perfect hidden civilization and could remain safely in the reef while the galaxy destroyed itself. Others insisted that humanity's greatest strength had always been their willingness to help others, even when it cost them dearly. Admiral Cha stood to address the council with military perspectives on humanity's capabilities. Behind her holographic displays showed the positions of stealth fleets that could reach any point in the galaxy faster than galactic sensors could detect them. "If we decide to intervene, we have overwhelming advantages," Cha reported. "Our ships are invisible to all, known sensors and equipped with defensive systems that can neutralize entire fleets without destroying them. We can appear anywhere in council space and disappear before they can respond. Most importantly, we have the element of complete surprise." The military had been preparing for this possibility since humanity first discovered the ancient builder technology. Stealth vessels equipped with quantum displacement drives could materialize simultaneously at strategic points throughout the galaxy. Energy weapons based on builder science could disable galactic military forces without causing casualties. Most importantly, humanity now possessed defensive shields that could absorb any weapon the galaxy could deploy against them. Dr. Ko presented the diplomatic framework that would govern humanity's return to galactic civilization. The former xenobiologist had spent years studying the political structures that had led to humanity's expulsion, and her proposals would prevent similar incidents in the future. "We propose a new galactic charter based on principles of species equality and technological cooperation," Ko explained. "No species can be expelled from galactic civilization based on fear or cultural differences. All major decisions must be made through consensus rather than majority vote. Most importantly, any species that shares beneficial technology with the galaxy receives guaranteed protection and representation." The new charter would transform galactic politics from a system dominated by ancient species to one where younger civilizations had equal voices. Humanity's return would coincide with fundamental reforms that would prevent future persecution of species that didn't conform to galactic norms. Technology demonstrator So activated holographic displays showing the scope of humanity's technological advances. The assembled captains watched in amazement as So demonstrated capabilities that seemed like magic even to people who had lived with builder technology for years. "We can offer the galaxy medical treatments that eliminate genetic diseases at the molecular level," So announced. "Terraforming systems that create stable biospheres in months instead of centuries. Energy sources that provide unlimited clean power without environmental impact. Transportation networks that connect every world in the galaxy through instantaneous travel." The demonstrations continued for hours as So showed ecological restoration techniques that could repair environmental damage in days' agricultural systems. that could end hunger on any world and manufacturing processes that could produce any needed material from basic atomic components. Humanity had become capable of providing abundance to every species in the galaxy. But the most important presentation came from Battle Coordinator Su-Yon Nam, who revealed humanity's ultimate defensive capability. The ancient builders had left behind technology that could create protective barriers around entire star systems, making them completely invulnerable to any form of attack. "We can offer every species in the galaxy their own hidden sanctuary," Nam explained. "Using builder technology, we can create pocket dimensions that exist slightly outside normal space-time. Each species could have worlds that are completely protected from external threats while remaining connected to the broader galactic community." The implications were staggering. Humanity could eliminate the resource competition that drove most galactic conflicts by giving every species access to unlimited resources in their own protected space. Wars would become meaningless when every civilization had everything they needed and perfect security for their populations. President Rowe called for a vote after 12 hours of debate. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would return to galactic civilization not as the junior species they had once been, but as the civilization that could save the galaxy from destroying itself. The return began at dawn on New Geneva, when Admiral Cha activated the Revelation Protocol. Across the galaxy, human stealth vessels materialized simultaneously at strategic locations. The ships themselves were works of art that incorporated builder technology with human engineering to create vessels that looked like crystallized starlight given physical form. At Nexus Prime Station, Fleet Admiral Jin-Woo Park materialized in the council chambers without any warning. The aging diplomat now wore the uniform of humanity's space fleet and carried himself with the confidence of someone who commanded technology that surpassed galactic science by millions of years. His ship's sole ascendant hung invisible above the station until Park chose to reveal it to the assembled delegates. "Members of the Galactic Council," Park announced as 800 alien representatives stared at him in shock. "Humanity has returned." The council chamber erupted in chaos as species that had voted for humanity's expulsion tried to understand how humans had appeared without being detected by any galactic sensors. War Marshal Thexkar immediately ordered the station's defenses to fire on the human ship, but nothing happened when he pressed the activation controls. "Your weapons systems have been temporarily disabled," Park explained calmly. "We have no intention of harming anyone, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. We've returned to offer the galaxy a choice between cooperation and continued self-destruction." Dr. Ko materialized beside Park and activated a holographic display that showed the scope of humanity's technological capabilities. The assembled delegates watched in amazement as Ko demonstrated medical cures that could heal previously incurable diseases, terraforming techniques that could restore dead worlds in months, and energy systems that could provide unlimited power to any civilization. "7 years ago, you expelled humanity because you feared our unpredictability," Ko announced. "Today we return with solutions to every problem your civilization faces. We offer these gifts freely, but only under a new charter that prevents future persecution of species based on fear or cultural differences." The demonstration continued as Gimin So showed the Council technological marvels that seemed impossible. According to galactic science, molecular assemblers that could create any needed material from basic atoms, medical systems that could extend any species' lifespan indefinitely, transportation networks that could connect every world in the galaxy through instantaneous travel. War Marshal Thexkar attempted to rally opposition to humanity's return, but his efforts collapsed when Battle Coordinator Nam demonstrated humanity's defensive capabilities. The Zephyrian battle fleet that had been approaching Nexus Prime suddenly found their ships completely immobilized as human technology disabled their engines, weapons, and life support systems without causing any damage. "We have neutralized 73 military vessels without harming a single crew member," Nam announced. "Your fleets are now floating helplessly in space, but every person aboard them is completely safe. We can restore their ships' functions immediately if they agree to peaceful negotiations."